So something unique with our tour this time is we're going to do a little interview with Cannon. He's our superintendent, our superstar on this build. And what's unique, and I'm sure Cannon can attest to this, we're going to talk first structurally, the changes that were made to go from Tuscan home to the classic Mediterranean. What's funny is I know after demo day, we went back and forth in the bidding stage with the client. You know, part of the recommendation was, do you just tear the whole house down and rebuild from scratch? Do you kind of demo it?
Yeah.
And, you know, we had gone through both scenarios. And then I think our client was pretty surprised after demo day when they said, why didn't we just want to tear it down? So speak to that, Cannon.
Yeah, so with this house, obviously, old school, tons of angles, rounded corners and stuff like that. And so with the remodel, we had to do a lot of demo. We tore down everything to studs. We did a lot of concrete cutting. We did a lot of structural foundation changes that had to happen. So with that, over on the master wing of the house, we had to remove all the trusses and do all new trusses on that side. Over that main entry, we actually removed some trusses and grew that mass. And with a remodel, and rather than just tearing it down, we did have the benefits of like saving all the concrete costs that would have happened. It was much lower, and you also save a lot of, lots of excavation that would have had to happen, all new plumbing underground and stuff like that. So there's a lot of cost savings that do come with a remodel, even when it is this extensive. And so it was awesome for them to like see, oh wow, where'd my house go? And now transform it totally. It doesn't even look like the same house.
Well, what's unique, Cannon, I think you have a really good relationship with the client. So we're here with them this morning, and I know they're big fans of Cannon Carson. So, you know, maybe walk through, how do you set off good communication with the client? Like, how did you build that rapport with them?
So honestly, with them, it was just over communicating everything. Just looping them in on all the little details, the things that you think they don't care about, so that they know that you care and that you want to make it perfect for them. So I would, even down to like, hey, the pavers, do we want it to have a miter cut in the corner, or do you want me to just butt them together? I would include them in stuff like that, which typically it doesn't need to happen, and not with every client it's necessary, but for them it was like something that they loved. Every little detail I was cluing them in on, asking their opinions, wanting to get as much of their input on the house as possible, because this is their forever home, this is their dream home. And so they got to really take a collaborative almost effort in it and make it like the build process fun. I think Doug, the owner, he actually learned a lot during the process, and he always says, hey, now I can be your assistant superintendent.
It's amazing the training they get being here, right? And then from the pool and landscape, there was a lot of coordination, the design team as well, as you look at architect designer, you know, working with Milos and Alyssa Lee Hickman, you know, how were you able to capture that relationship?
So I just talked with them often. Any question I had, even if they were silly ones, I would ask them, because I wanted their input on it. I wanted them to also like know that I was gonna create the house that they had envisioned as well. So like with the fireplace, for example, originally they wanted to do a recessed hearth, but in order to do that, we would have had to cut out all the concrete around it, tie in with new rebar, epoxy those in, and depress the slab so that you could get that hearth. But in communicating with the designer, I was able to get her to approve something and get the homeowner's approval on it as well, which would make it an easier fix, or like...
Yeah, just transformation, because there's cost, there's complication, timing. And that's really important. And I think what's very important too, Cannon, is, and I know Lissa said this, is that, you know, they have their design intent. They want this to be done in their method. Yeah. And what should not happen is you and I interpreting, right, what it should be and making our own decisions. And so I know they were like super grateful, because they're like, hey, Ken will call us, he'd go through this detail. So then that way there's no confusion, and now you get the end all project, you know, the final product that the clients want. And maybe speak to this hood. I know there's some customization I think you had back here, because these are operating windows.
Yes, absolutely. So with this hood, you can see it's mounted in front of a window. So you can see it front and back. And the spacing on the back is, it gets a little tight. So I actually had to go ahead, and there's hinges, not hinges, but locks up here that I had to modify so that we could go ahead and take this and then be able to open it while not interfering with this beautiful hood, and they'd be able to get a little bit of that ventilation into the kitchen, natural ventilation and all that. There was also a bunch of backing that had to be put up in the ceiling, all that coordination beforehand, because this is obviously quite a large hood and heavier and stuff like that. So we had to get all those things taken care of and thought about early in the process. So talking with the designer, talking with the fabricator, how are we going to get this thing to work? And we brought it to life.
And now with the remodel, you know, as we close this little interview, what's interesting is, you know, typically on most of our new builds, because it's a hillside or takes a lot of time, we have plenty of time to order windows, you know, and some other product that are long lead time like appliances. You know, when you're moving quickly, you know, maybe speak to how you worked around back order on windows and still try to move the project forward.
Yes, so actually with this project, because the remodel, so expedited time schedule, and with COVID delays and like shipping delays and everything, the windows weren't going to get here in time for me to be able to keep moving on the house. So I actually worked with Pella. They were nice enough to provide some temporary framing in there, and then we did a little bit of temporary waterproofing so that we could seal up the house and wait for those long lead time windows. And we were able to actually turn the AC on in the house and get everything ready and acclimated so that we could keep moving on the project and get it all delivered within a timely manner.
Right, get your wood flooring acclimated, get that installed, you know, cabinetry, get your countertop, I mean, everything that follows that sequence.
Everything that follows.
So Ken did an amazing job. I will say that he has this amazing rapport with the clients. I mean, very unique to have that relationship at this point in the schedule, right? Especially as clients are moving in, that they still love them. So glad you tuned in today. Thanks for tuning in to Timeless Beauty, and we'll see you next time.